Hey everyone! Before we dive into this story, please hit that subscribe button to support my channel and stay updated with more content like this. Now, let's get started. A crisp white envelope rested next to my dinner plate, its presence sharp like a silent warning. My name, Harper, was printed in bold, centered capitals, no flourish, no personal touch, just cold, mechanical precision. Dad avoided my gaze as I slid it open. $1,500 a month, he stated, his tone flat, like he was reciting a grocery list. It covered rent, Wi-Fi, power, and my portion of household expenses, he explained. I stared at the detailed breakdown. $900 for rent, $200 for utilities, $400 for shared costs. At the bottom, in stark print, due on the 1st, late fees apply. Chloe, beside me, twirled her fork through her pasta, her nails freshly manicured, her phone glowing with some influencer's beauty tips. She didn't look up. But Chloe doesn't, I started, pointing out she was still finding herself. Mom's voice slid in, smooth as silk. You've got 2 jobs, Harper. You're steady. It's time to step up and handle real responsibilities. Steady, sure, because I hadn't had a day off in half a year. Working 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the bank, then racing across town to wait tables until midnight, cutting coupons, skipping meals, still sleeping in the bedroom I'd painted as a kid. I glanced at the bill again, each number feeling like a verdict. When does this start? I asked softly. Next week, Dad said. We know you can handle it. Mom's fork clinked against her glass. And just so we're clear, late payments mean a $50 fee. That's how the world works. I nodded. What else could I do? I folded the paper neatly, tucked it into my pocket, and left the table before the ache in my chest broke me open. Upstairs, I opened my laptop and checked my bank account. Not flush, but not zero. I stared at the balance for a long time, then created a new spreadsheet titled Rent Records and started typing. Downstairs, Chloe's laughter floated up, her phone blaring some viral clip. I added a column, costs they don't cover. I was learning, but not the lesson they thought. My credit card statement popped up, and there was Chloe's name, tied to charges I didn't make. By week's end, I'd worked 5 bank shifts, 3 late nights at the restaurant, and eaten maybe 4 proper meals. My wrists burned from balancing trays, my legs ached from endless standing, and my inbox was clogged with overdraft warnings and rent reminders. Friday night, I came home to find Chloe sprawled on the couch in my old sweatshirt, the TV blaring a reality dating show rerun. An Amazon package sat on the coffee table, addressed to me but bought by someone else. Chloe, I said, holding it up, did you use my card again? She didn't flinch. You said I could once, ages ago, for textbooks. A shrug. You never changed the password. I waited for a shred of remorse. Nothing, just TV laughter. Mom walked in, drying her hands on a towel. What's this about? She's still using my card, I said, voice low. Mom sighed, already over it. Harper, Chloe's figuring things out. You've got a stable income. Why not help each other instead of tallying every penny? I swallowed hard. They didn't see it as stealing. They saw it as normal, expected. I earned, she spent, and that was balance to them. That night, alone in my room, I scrolled through my bank app. Unfamiliar charges piled up. Makeup, streaming services, meal deliveries, all linked to the card tied to our shared Wi-Fi account. I opened my spreadsheet, added a tab labeled Chloe's charges, then opened a browser and typed how to dispute unauthorized family credit card charges. I didn't hit enter. Instead, I searched how to open a high-yield savings account. By Tuesday's lunch break, I'd opened one, not at my bank, too risky, but at a credit union across town. I used my work email, set up a P.O. box for mail, and seeded it with a $1,000 bonus I'd earned for hitting quarterly goals. A small step, but mine. That night, I updated my spreadsheet, tab by tab. Rent, utilities, groceries I'd covered without being asked. I color-coded it green for paid, yellow for disputed, red for Chloe's digital fingerprints on my accounts. Each click felt like taking back control. 2 days later, at the bank, Lucas leaned over the teller divider, his easy grin in place. You look like you're building a legal case. Maybe I am, I muttered. I told him enough. The rent bill, Chloe's charges, the unspoken family rules. Check this out, he said, pulling up a public mortgage registry. Your parents refinanced last year. They're 90 days behind on payments. I blinked. But I've been paying. They're not teaching you responsibility, he said. They're using your paycheck to keep the house afloat. That's not growth, that's reliance. That night, I added a bolded row to my spreadsheet. Mortgage contribution. Beneath it, I wrote, this isn't about my growth. It's about keeping them above water. I saved 2 copies, one on my desktop, one in the cloud, labeled proof. I lay back, calculating how long it'd take to save enough to leave. The numbers were daunting, but I wasn't just working anymore. I was documenting. And documenting was its own kind of defiance. It started in the break room when Lucas slid his phone across the table. Take a look, he said. A foreclosed 3-bedroom in a solid area. Price low because the seller was desperate. I expected a wreck, but the photos showed polished hardwood, clean windows, a modest backyard. Not fancy, but doable. I can't afford a house, I said, though my voice wavered. Lucas shrugged. Not now, but maybe sooner than you think. You're saving, right? I nodded, my secret account growing weekly, not enough for a mansion, but maybe a start. After my restaurant shift, I stayed up reading. How to buy property through an LLC, how to keep real estate deals private, how to shield your identity in public records. By dawn, I had a plan. Mrs. Carter, a kind, sharp-eyed bank client and part-time real estate agent, met me at a quiet cafe. When I explained my goal, she didn't blink. We'll set up a shell LLC, she said. You're the sole member, but the paperwork will show only Triumph Properties, LLC. I grinned at the name. Why Triumph? You chose it, she said with a smirk. It's what you wrote when I asked what this was all about. I didn't recall, but it felt right. Solid, definitive. The process moved quickly. Lucas helped with the financials, Mrs. Carter handled the filings, and soon I had a folder labeled Triumph Properties and a checklist called Operation Freedom. Each night, I packed a bit more, clothes, books, old sketch pads, storing them in my car's trunk, and moving them to a storage unit during lunch breaks. No one noticed my emptying bookshelf or thinning closet. Chloe was lost in her ring light and video shoots, and my parents just thought I was exhausted. They weren't wrong, but this wasn't giving up, it was strategizing. I picked a Tuesday when everyone would be out. Chloe had her half-attended yoga class, Mom was at her book club, Dad at tennis with his loud-laughing buddies. I timed it perfectly. Lucas helped load heavier boxes into his car that morning, disguised as a work ride. The rest, toiletries, final clothes, my laptop, fit in my back seat. I left my house key on the nightstand and placed a folded note on the kitchen table, labeled Harper. Inside, as of today, I'm moving out. Rent is no longer due. Internet and all services in my name will disconnect within 24 hours. Forward mail to the bank's address. H. No feelings, no arguments, just facts. I paused in the doorway, the house's silence sinking into me. The citrus scent of Mom's cleaner lingered, Chloe's violet salt lamp glowed through her cracked door, and my old trophies, debate, science fair, perfect attendance, sat on the mantel, proof of a usefulness they still claimed. I closed the door and didn't look back. In the car, I blocked Mom, Dad, and Chloe on my phone. The quiet was instant, like shutting off a buzzing I'd carried for years. That afternoon, Mrs. Carter called. Your offer's accepted. Triumph Properties owns the listing. Closing in under 30 days. I pressed my forehead to the steering wheel. Eyes closed. Not relief yet, but certainty it was real, it was mine. I parked outside my temporary sublet, a guest room at Lucas's sister's place, and carried in my first boxes. That night, I slept without earplugs, no pacing upstairs, no Chloe yelling into her phone, no late-night laundry hum. Just calm. They found me quicker than I'd hoped. A plain envelope arrived that morning, addressed to current resident in black ink. Inside, a notice. The mortgage on their home now belonged to Triumph Properties, LLC. Effective immediately. Mrs. Carter texted a photo of Mom grabbing the mail, face pale, mouth open, clutching the paper. Dad stood behind, eyes narrowed, scanning the page. By evening, they were at my door. I watched through the peephole. Dad in a stiff polo, jaw tight. Mom wringing her hands. Chloe, arms crossed, sunglasses perched like a crown. I opened the door halfway, standing firm. Harper, Mom started, voice airy, we got a letter. Some company took the mortgage. There's a mistake. No mistake, I said. Dad's brow creased. Know anything about Triumph Properties? I do. I didn't elaborate. Mom glanced at Chloe. Sweetheart, Chloe needs a place to stay while we sort this out. Just for now. You're so responsible. I nodded slowly. Garage couch. $1,500 a month. Late fees apply. Chloe's head whipped toward me. Are you for real? Completely, I said. You taught me well. Dad's face flushed. This isn't a joke, Harper. We're family. I tilted my head. You were family when you handed me a printed bill and called it love. Mom's voice broke. We didn't mean I know what you meant, I said. And I learned. I stepped back and shut the door. Their voices faded through the wood. No shouting, no banging, just the quiet of people losing their grip. I stood still, then walked to my laptop, where the mortgage documents folder waited. I added a file. Interaction log. First visit. They came back, uninvited. This time, they lingered on the porch, hesitant. I opened the door slowly, not moving aside. We need to talk, Dad said. Figured, I replied. I walked to the kitchen, where 3 chairs sat ready and a manila envelope waited on the table. I sat first, sliding the envelope toward them. Mom opened it, revealing 2 years of records. Every rent payment, late fee, utility split, grocery receipt, and Chloe's credit card charges. They took minutes to grasp it. I kept everything, I said. You taught me to. Chloe sat rigid, pretending not to peek. Dad was quiet until he saw the final page, the property deed. What's this? He asked, voice hollow. It's your house's deed, I said. Triumph Properties owns it now. His eyes reread it, disbelieving. This is real. How? You gave me an education. I used it. He gripped the table, shoulders sagging. We wanted you stronger. You made me silent, I said. You made me tired. But I learned to document, to survive, to win. Mom reached out, fingers shaking. Harper, please. I stood. The mortgage is under a legal entity. You'll get a payment schedule next week. Email the address on the letter to negotiate. Dad's eyes stayed on the deed, hands trembling. I led them to the door, opened it, and waited. Chloe said nothing. I handed Mom the envelope. You'll need this, I said. It's everything you taught me. My new room faced east, catching the morning sun. I painted the walls crisp white, unrolled a rug I'd saved for years, and unpacked my brushes with care, like they were holy. A blank canvas sat on an easel. I hadn't painted in over 2 years, not just from exhaustion, but because that house made me feel small, like art was a luxury I couldn't afford. Now it felt essential, like breathing. The doorbell rang as I set out my paints. I almost ignored it, but answered. Mom stood alone, holding tissue-wrapped frame. I won't stay, she said softly. I found this. She revealed a photo from my senior year art show, me beaming beside a painting, clutching a blue ribbon, believing it mattered. You were so proud, she whispered. We were wrong. I said nothing, just studied the image, recalling the me who existed before shifts and bills and silent survival. Thought you'd want it, she added. I nodded, took it, and set it on the art room shelf without a word. She lingered, then walked away. I didn't follow. I returned to the easel, picked up a brush, and faced the blank canvas. The light was perfect. On the 1st of the month, I sent the rent notice. Short, professional, clear. Payment due to Triumph Properties, LLC. Market rate, 5-day grace period, late fees apply. Hitting send felt odd, not from guilt, but from its calm finality. I wasn't waiting for them to do right anymore. I was doing what they'd taught me. 2 days later, Lucas forwarded an email from Chloe. She'd applied for a salon receptionist job, listing me as a reference. I approved it without comment. That evening, Emma brought Thai takeout, extra spring rolls, and we spread it across my dining table. Lucas arrived with sodas and a printout of the LLC's first quarterly report. You're actually profitable, he said, eyebrow raised. Didn't expect your revenge plot to become a business. I laughed, genuinely laughed, leaning back. They taught me to track receipts, I said. I just took it further. Emma grinned. Maybe too far. Or not far enough, Lucas added. We raised our glasses, toasting rough starts and better endings. After they left, I filed a copy of the rent notice in a folder labeled Sent. It was my first document free of fear. The house was still, my account secure, my brush clean beside a canvas streaked with deep orange and smoky blue. I'd finish it tomorrow. Tonight, I let the quiet belong to me. The studio smelled of possibility, fresh paint, raw wood, a trace of turpentine, like my college days. I stood in its center, sunlight streaming through tall windows, taking it all in. Mine. I'd signed the lease under Triumph Properties. The LLC had assets now, income from a mortgage they thought would crush me. Instead, it built this. I hung the art show photo by the door, not for nostalgia, but as evidence of who I'd been before I became this. My first brushstroke was steady. I painted through the afternoon. Bold strokes, no plan, just instinct. The light shifted, shadows stretched. My phone buzzed. A family group chat I hadn't read since leaving. Dinner? We need to talk. Chloe's hours got cut. Mortgage is due. I stared, then typed, rent due on the 1st. Late fees apply. I blocked the thread, turned off the phone, and set it in a drawer. I stepped back to view my canvas, unfinished, but it didn't need to be. The studio's silence wasn't hollow, it was hard-won. Picking up the brush again, I realized this wasn't vengeance. It was reclamation. Responsibility isn't just paying bills or carrying others' burdens, it's claiming your own space. They taught me to track every dollar, every slight, but I turned their lesson into my liberation. Receipts weren't just proof, they were truth, exposing what they hid behind bills and expectations. Silence became my strength, not submission, when I used it to plan, build, and escape. Family isn't a debt you owe endlessly. It's a bond you choose, or don't, when it demands your spirit. I learned to save, not just money, but my art, my voice, myself. Triumph Properties wasn't just a name. It was my defiance, proof their lessons could forge my victory. Above all, peace isn't handed to you, it's seized. You carve it out by stepping away from what diminishes you. The canvas, the quiet, the sunlight in my studio, they're mine because I stopped asking for permission. They taught me to survive. I taught myself to thrive.